Howdy, howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast number 372, The Application. How you folks doing? Great, man, I tell you, last week's podcast, did it light up my lines? Wow. I mean, emails and phone calls and even he had I had two people at the Unique event that came up and were just, hey, it seems that last week's podcast just seemed to resonate with many of you, and I am glad it helped. So I appreciate you letting me know because we're going to just keep on building on it like we have for years now here on the podcast. So thank you, folks. I truly appreciate all the feedback. Hey, once again, I am using Adobe Podcast Beta. The transcript will be located, as it always is, the bottom of the blog post for the podcast. So it's there. Appreciate you using it. Glad that Adobe makes this available to us. It's really cool. Hey, I want to thank my good friends again, as always, at Bedford's Camera, bedfords.com. I mean, I hate to admit it, but yeah, the holidays are here already. I swear to Pete, I can't believe it. Man, where has this year gone? Anyway, they have a whole lot of really great holiday deals going on. Some really amazing ones. And one of the ones I really like is the trade-in deal going on for people wanting to get the Nikon Z8. I love that camera. I use it a lot. And now there's a big trade-in event going on along with holiday deals. So what you got going here at Bedford, you've got great prices, great product, great service. You've got Z8 trade-in deals, you've got holiday deals, and if that wasn't enough, you've got the Moose discount after you check out that 5%. So Bedford's, they keep on rocking it. They're going to make it a jolly season. Thanks for sponsoring the Moose podcast. Well, I'm going to get right into this week's episode because I have a lot to cover. I got a whole list of stuff here and it doesn't even scratch the surface. So, the application. Now, a quick review. Last week, I talked about how, you know, you folks, you're smart. You watch the online classes, you read the books, you go and investigate the web, and you learn all this stuff, and it's in there. It's getting it out when you're out behind the camera that's really the challenge, because it's the application of what you learn that really is the stumbling block. And a whole lot of you rang my cage and said, hey, okay, so you've figured out the problem, how do we solve it? The application of what we've learned. Well, there are a lot of different theories, methodologies, practices in which you can apply what you've learned to help it sink in. And here's the first and probably the most difficult, challenging part of this whole process is that we are all unique individuals. And because of that, not every single way is going to work for every single person. That's just the nature of this whole process. So, with that said, keep in mind that what I'm going to talk about is moi and how I've gone about doing things. Now, I will never forget way back when, and this is going way back in the dark ages, that I was proper hand holding and long lens technique were actually brought to my attention. Mentioned it before. We were at that Nikon event when I was back in high school. My good friend Roger, and back then, telephoto lenses, they were nothing like what we have today. You had the AU1 focusing unit. Can't make this stuff up. And to that, Nikon had a 4, a 6, a 8, and a 1200 group of elements that you would screw into that focusing unit, and that would be your telephoto lens. So literally, the Ayres gap was set in stone, and then you would screw into the optics, and then you would focus. And oh man, the focusing! I don't remember how many times you had to rotate it. I think you had to do 3 to 5 full 360 revolutions of the focusing knob, this big gray thing, in order to go from infinity to the minimum focusing distance. And of course, the minimum focusing distance back then was it was huge, huge. Anyway, so I'm in this class, and back then, and remember, I was in high school, and I wasn't an active shooter, and I have to be honest, I didn't really pay attention to sports photography, photographers back then, but they had to work in the stands. They weren't on the track. And of course, with that really slow focusing system, right? How could you be, something's coming at you? Anyway, they were in the big lenses and they were physically as long as the focal length. They're in the stands and they had to minimize the vibration in the stands from all the people. That's how long lens technique was first, developed and perfected. Resting your hand on lens barrel, pushing your eye against the body, rolling your finger on the camera. Not like I invented this stuff. It was relayed to me way back when, and I keep relaying it to you. And that is literally learning something and then something you have to apply continually. So proper long lens technique, proper hand holding, both of those. Talked about them. I will never stop talking about because I always see people, I shouldn't say always, a lot of times I see people not doing it. And then I see people who are not doing it saying they're not getting sharp images. And well, of course you're not. This is not rocket science. So it's everything that we learn, we have to apply it to the point where it's second nature. And then once it's second nature, the application, when it's apropos, just falls into place. So if you have a long lens, an 800 millimeter Z800 let's go with the big guy there, and you have that lens and you don't practice with it, literally, at least once a week, put it on the tripod, shoot with it, trying to get sharp images at 20th of a second, 1/20, you can't expect yourself to go out for the weekends and get those great shots. It just is not, they're not, I shouldn't say great shots, tack sharp images. It's not rocket science. I was very fortunate to be a trainer for a while for a very group of amazing young men. And muscle memory is what they practice every single minute of every day. And with that, they were really good at it. And it's just like, yeah, same with photography, hand holding, long lens tripod technique. And no matter how good you are in Photoshop, if it isn't sharp, it's not sharp. I don't care what plugin you've got, especially if you're trying to make a living at this. As Ansel Adams is once credited as saying, there's nothing worse than a sharp image of a fuzzy idea, and nothing even more worse than a fuzzy image of a really crappy idea. So, sharpness, do it once in the camera. Okay. Now, what else is there? So much. I've probably talked about, I should backtrack. I'm looking at my list. So, I do a lot of experiments or what ifs. My mind goes, I'm out there and I go, I wonder what if, and whenever that happens, I always follow that what if. That's how I've always pushed myself to learn more. So I have a couple things I do with these what ifs that are really goes to the application of what you've learned. So first, and remember I started doing this stuff back in the days of film when I had 36 exposure, and every 36 exposure was $10. So it really hurt to do this stuff. So that pain probably is partly why I remember and I'm able to apply with my little pea brain all that I can when I'm out shooting. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I take a picture of my hand, just a picture of my hand. Why do I do that? Because then when I look at the images later on, back in the days of film, I wouldn't see the images. The soonest I'd see images is 2 days after I took the picture. So there's no way if I'm out in the field for 10 days, I'm gonna remember 2 weeks later what I was thinking when I took those shots. So I go through the pictures, I see my hand, I go, oh, okay, something coming up is a what if moment. It's an experiment. It is trying something out that I haven't thought about. And then at the very end of all that experiment, I take another picture of my hand. So I bracket that information, that experiment, that what if moment. And then I actually create folders. I have all these folders still in my drive, all these folders of what ifs. And yeah, the folder's name is What If. And why do I do that? So I can go back and relearn from my own mistakes. And that's a big part of this. You have to understand, you have to embrace, and you have to get comfortable with the fact is failure is really important. I don't care what anybody says. If they say it's not the case, there isn't a single study on this process, especially as we get older, that we have to embrace failure. Failure indicates you're learning. That is proven over and over again. So these folders, they have all that in there. I don't delete any of the stuff, not the hand pictures, not the stuff in between, because I constantly go back, especially if it's for a location. So with that in mind, I've got that system. It's a lot of space. I'm telling you, it's a lot of hard drive space. And I think it's at least a third, if not more, of a filing cabinet drawer. Probably more. I haven't been in that drawer for a long time. I should go do that. Anyway, back to it. So I have talked about and bemoaned many times how my family and now Maggie, whenever I have the camera, they go somewhere else. They have not been, or they aren't, I should say, anymore, the most cooperative of subjects. No one's ever asked why I'm always pointing my camera at my family. Now, there is the obvious reason. It's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, it's the birthday, that kind of stuff. Yes, when those moments are happening, the people in my family don't care. It's the other times when I'm trying to take what I have learned and apply it, and I'm using them as a subject that they really just don't want to play anymore. I can't say I blame them because, hey, some of my application is not really good, and the results, ooh, and in the beginning they always go, "Oh, let's see what you did, Dad," or "Let's see what you shot, hubby," and they look at the pictures and go, "What was that?" And of course, after enough of that, who blames them for not wanting to play? But there is all these, the five P's: perfect, practice, blah blah blah. There is no such thing as perfect, so don't go there. What you're trying to do is figure out scenarios in which you can take what you have read, ingested, suggestions, ideas, and figure out not only how to apply them, but the most important part, when to apply them. Because that's we keep, it's just like a toolbox. We keep, I shouldn't say we, a lot of us guys and some ladies, we collect all these tools. For my case, it's woodworking. And sometimes you get them because they're shiny, shiny's good. Sometimes it's because, they are just rare. That's good. And sometimes they're actually solve problems. But you don't use every tool every time you build something. But if you don't have it, you can't use it. So you acquire them. So then you've got these tools, and then the problem comes up, and you have to say, "Oh, yeah, I need to go to the drawer and get this tool that I got, and it solves the problem." Well, that's the same thing with photography. You collect all this information, and you got to apply it. So I started with something very simple. And why did I start using the family as a test model? Well, one, especially when I'm not a portrait photographer. Well, it's hard to remember, but when I started way back when, I just had gotten over wedding photography because I put myself through school shooting weddings, and I'd done my small stint in fashion. So people were, I guess you could say, on the mind, and thought about faces and shapes and colors and shading. So that was my, kind of instant gravitation. Because then I got into birds. Birds are round, have kind of character, kind of same thing. But birds, for a long time, weren't just like I could just sit at my desk and photograph a bird and learn something. So you got to figure out what it is that, you're going after. Is it critters? Is it aircraft? Is it people? Is it macro? What is that genre of photography that really, just like you go, that's what I want to go do. So with that, you start, I hate to say the word practicing. So let's just say we're going to start applying what we have learned. Okay, we're going to apply what we've researched. We're going to apply what it is we think we want to incorporate in our photography. And we're going to apply with two thoughts in mind: the actual execution of the recipe and learning when to execute this or that recipe in this and that scenario. Now, there is, zoo photography. Zoo photography is something I did for a long time. I didn't do it as a means to increase my library or to put on my shingle. I did it because I had critters in a controlled scenario, and the first thing it just smacked me in the face, and I learned it right off the bat. Working with critters in a zoo is depth of focus. Because if you want a photograph of a critter taken in a zoo that looks like it's not taken in a zoo in a cage, you've got to understand and learn how to control backgrounds, which means understanding everything from f-stop to exposure, lights and darks, all the things you can imagine. So zoos, one thing about zoos is you can get an annual membership, and when you do that, going a lot is really not very painful. Then you have controlled situations. So let's just pick on, let's say we want to photograph black bears. So we go to the black bear enclosure and we take our photographs. The first time you go, it could be just, wow, you're just like overwhelmed and you're shooting. Get back and take those photographs and file them. File them twice. Put them in the actual folder you would for black bears, and then put them in that folder, the what if, the experiments, and go back and look at the experiments later, a week or 2 weeks later, and look at them. Don't go open them in Photoshop. Don't go trying to fix them. Don't go there. One of the things about all this is that muscle memory, and the biggest and most important muscle is between your ears. Look at what you did and mark down and write it down. And here's the thing about notes. People, I see lots of people taking notes, but two things. One, they don't organize them. And the other is they don't go back and read them. So what good is taking a note if you don't go back and read what you wrote down? So it means you have to kind of keep things simple. So look at those pictures and just pick one thing that you want to improve. Just one thing. It could be sharpness in the eyes. It could be exposure compensation. It could be depth of focus. It could be where you placed them in the enclosure where you stood. I mean, there's a lot of things. Pick that one that you and go back to that same scenario and do it again, focusing not on the black bears, but that one thing you want to improve. And then come back, file them, look at them later, and apply it again. Pick the next thing you want to do. And you're going to do this numerous times. I did it many times. At some point when I pass away, people are going to look at my slide files and go, what was he thinking? Well, this is it. Because this is how I start taking things that I was reading and learning how to apply them at the camera and learning what to apply and when to apply them. And it takes time. There is no quick road to this. That's just one example. You could do the same thing with you could do to airports and just photograph. Don't go to air shows. That's time and money. Go to an airport when you see good light. Start practice your panning. Practice photographing ground to air photography. Look at the backgrounds. Doesn't take hours of time. You can just spend an hour and it will make a difference. You can go to you could go to classes there at Bedford's Camera. Don't do any of these things. Any of the things I'm talking about, the zoo, the game farms, airports, any stuff, going to Bedford's, thinking you're going to come back with that award-winning photograph that 30 years from now is going to, have jettisoned your career. Get a grip. Go to these things looking at that one thing you want to apply. Have something that you have learned, seen, thought about, wanted to do, and just apply that one thing. And then come back and look at how you did. Embrace the successes and hold on tight to the failures and just learn that one thing. Because failure, I've said it once, I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face and dead in the ground. Failure is how we move forward. The one thing that I'll never forget is our oldest son, Brent, trying to teach dad how to cross country ski. I mean, thank goodness there wasn't video cameras back then. Oh, it was not pretty. And Brent has got some great patience. He's a really great teacher. And one time I'm face planted in the snow, and I am melting a hole deeper and deeper because I'm just fed up with myself because I just could not get it. And Brent just looked bent over, offered me his hand to help me up, and he said, "Dad, if you weren't following, you weren't learning, and you're not trying." So it applies to everything, even cross country skiing. If you keep trying to learn, you're going to fall on your face, fall on your butt, get cold. That's just the way it is. So that's it. That's how, at least for myself, I take what I read and ingest and learn to apply it at the times it's required. It's needed to tell a story. You can do the same thing, folks. You can do the same things. Thanks ever so much for stopping by and spending some time with me again. Appreciate all the feedback. You guys have simply a marvelous week. And remember to make every click your story.